you just abandon any precaution. You know, folks, something could happen here, and if it does, so what?
Hey friends, welcome to Nathan for Us, a Nathan Fielder fan podcast. My name is Kelly.
And hi, I'm Megan.
And today we are back hot off the heels of talking about The Curse. And we wanted to talk a little bit about some post-show media that we consumed talking about this show. I think we read a couple articles. I think we watched a couple different videos, so we'll get different perspectives. But yeah, just all things what we experienced with this show.
3 years later, the post-show content is popping.
Yes.
It's us. I think it's just us.
We're the only people still talking about The Curse, I think. But,
I love that for us.
You never know. Could come back for season 2.
That'd be incredible. That'd be really great for us. Although, if you could get another season of Nathan for You, The Rehearsal, or The Curse, which would you want? I know definitively.
For me, it'd be The Rehearsal, because I think the HBO budget does a lot of heavy lifting. And I think The Rehearsal is like the most evolved version of Nathan for You. But what would you pick?
Oh, I would pick Nathan for You. Although, are we supposed to say The Curse? Because this is technically The Curse podcast. But I'm like obsessed with Nathan for You. And I feel like a new season would be so good. Also, if the Raya rumors are true, I would really love to see him actually do the hunk, like for real. I would die to see a Nathan Fielder dating show. It would be incredible. Please let us be like a PA or something on it. Let us set up the dates.
I just feel like we've already seen so much of like Nathan's opinions on dating. We've seen the hunk,
but
we've
not
seen
for
the rehearsal
real.
Not
Not for real. Oh,
the rehearsal.
You think we get what? Him and Angela?
No,
what was his dating?
When he was helping Colin.
Okay, but that's not him dating.
I think he imbued some of his own opinions onto Colin and that relationship.
Yeah, but they weren't successful. Like, we haven't seen a successful relationship.
I just think, like, we're never going to get a true, pure Nathan Fielder dating show. Like, he's not going on a dating show as himself, being serious.
Okay, this is my dream. These are just my dreams.
He's not here for the right reasons. We all know.
Like, if you got, like, a genuine, like, Nathan Fielder being like, I'm going to be 100% myself. I am trying to find my life partner. Would that not be so good? Would that not be great?
It would be intriguing. However, at the same time, I think Nathan Fielder, when he's not in his character, I think he's just kind of a normal guy, unfortunately. So I feel like it might be kind of boring.
List every bachelor ever. It's like just some normal dude.
I couldn't. Gun to my head, I couldn't, girl. You know that.
Every like bachelor or on all these reality dating shows, like it's just like the most average dudes ever.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have...
And Nathan Fielder is so not an average guy.
Unfortunately, I have middle-aged white man face blindness. So the majority of men, it's kind of two camps. If you're over the age of 60 and a white man, you all look the same to me. Especially if you have glasses. That really hurts if I'm able to tell any difference between you.
Trouble.
He's got a couple years.
You're going to be like, are you my husband?
I'll be like, I'm so sorry. I thought this other man was my husband. And then I have the same thing kind of with men, I'd say between like 40 to 50. So 50 to 60, I'm okay. But 40 to 50, same thing. They all kind of look the same to me.
Men, sorry, let me get this straight.
Yeah, we can go over it again.
Okay, can we just get your opinion on like below 30? Like, you can tell the difference? Let's
I think
decide
so.
what age categories you can't tell the difference. So 40 to 50, you cannot tell the difference between white men and glasses. 50 to 60, you're back
40
in, you can tell.
No, 40 to
60
50
plus, you can't tell again.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Yeah.
What happens at 50 to 60 where people suddenly like their facial features like lock in for you and you can tell the difference?
I feel like if you're like a good looking 50, then maybe my opinion differs. It depends on if you look old or young for your age. There's just a lot of factors here, but my main point is I think that white men tend to look similar. I'm sorry. I am being brave. I'm being brave here. Someone had to say it.
Someone had to be honest. But between 40 and 50 and 60 plus, they all look the same. Other than that, very different.
Yeah, I will be honest, like this kind of was spurred by I was at a work Christmas event and the CEO of the company that I work for was leaving and they had kind of a weird culty send off where there was like a fog machine and stuff and someone asked me sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Ugh. Your CEO was leaving.
Yes.
And decided I must have fog.
I don't know if he decided. They sent out an email beforehand to say there's going to be fog if anyone has some sort of health issue that they can't be around fog. I'm sorry if you're dealing with that. I'm not laughing at your struggles. It's got to be a really hard time, especially around Halloween. But they sent an email out first. I don't think.
Wait. We need to take this so much slower than we're taking it. Now, was he doing a magic trick? Was he saying, your future is foggy without me being here anymore? Was he looking to quick disappear in the fog? What was the intention?
Okay, so first of all, my first thought was also a magic trick, and I was really upset when that's not where we went.
And also the fact that he would be leaving. Could this great, incredible man be leaving? And we didn't know before that he could do magic? Should we reconsider him leaving? Offer the man more money.
Okay, I think he gets enough money. He does have a private jet, but not to bring this back to heated rivalry, but it turns out the whole thing is that he was very into sports.
Who?
I don't know. Again, I don't know the CEO.
Your boss was into sports and fog is used often in sports?
He's my boss in title, but like, again, I don't know. I can't point this man out.
No man can control you.
This man could have punched me in the face and I would not know the difference.
Between what and what?
He was really into sports. And so the people planning the send-off decided that the thing to do was to get a pennant made, like when a sports team wins a big championship.
Okay.
And so it said his name and then like CEO and then like the years that he was CEO. And then they had this presentation where they had fog and they like flung it up on wires into like the office. So it's just like hanging above.
Is it still there today?
I don't know. So I don't work out of this particular office. This is like our head office and I work out of kind of like a satellite office. So I'm not sure if it's still there, but that's why there was a fog machine. But anyways, so this all came up because someone asked me,
that doesn't explain why there's a fog machine at all.
Because, like in
Does that
sports,
happen every time they raise someone's jersey or number or something?
I
they
feel like
they
it does
do
at
fog?
hockey. I think at hockey
There's
games
fog.
it's more similar. I don't know. I don't go to a lot of hockey games, and famously the Toronto Maple Leafs haven't won anything in a long time.
Yeah.
So I'm just not sure. But I think it's like a hockey thing. Again, It hasn't gotten this far in heated rivalry yet. I'll let you know. Maybe this week. I haven't watched this week's episode yet, but maybe it happens this week. There's fog because that's now my benchmark for what happens at hockey games is whatever happens on that show. But anyway, so my coworker was like, "Oh, is he talking right now?" There was some man talking, and I said, "I don't know. I don't know the difference between white old men. They all look the same to me." So,
okay,
love and light to the former CEO of my company.
Did he like love the fog? He was like, "Yes, finally the respect I deserve." Was he,
to be honest,
super stoked?
There was a lot of people, and I could not see what was going on. So I didn't
Okay.
even really get to experience the fog.
Yeah.
So I was kind of too far back because again,
Nonprofit could never. We would never
listen,
have the budget for the fog machine. It's so
yeah,
funny because our long-term ED left recently as well. And like we did like a lot of press and like a lot like she like really impacted the community, like is a fantastic human being. And it would have been like really funny and nice, but the amount of hate we would have gotten if we had like a fog machine and like raised a flag with her name on it to leave like in the rafters of our building or something, like the whole community would be so confused. They'd be
uh,
like, what are we spending our money on?
I too was confused. There was a lot of
Yeah.
things that were confusing about this office party. I can't really get into them here.
This is
I
the
don't
only spot you
wanna-
can get into them,
I
frankly.
don't want someone to listen to this and then like get me in trouble at my job. So I just
He's
like
gone.
will leave it.
He's gone.
This is for
Our
the office group
listeners-
chat only.
Our listeners would never try to get us in trouble with our work. That would be very sad. We need our day jobs is what we're saying. And you all know
Yeah.
that. You know what our podcast is. You know we need our day jobs.
It's true. Yeah, advertisers
Yeah.
don't want to touch this for some reason. I don't understand why.
Although
I think that we're
it's not
bringing a
like
really
we've
interesting
asked.
perspective to.
Are we supposed to ask or are they supposed to ask us? Does anyone know?
I think we've put not very much effort in. We've asked one
None?
time for free Summit Ice sweatsuits and they never responded. So
They never saw the message.
Mm.
And that was really mean.
Again, like maybe if we put some effort in, we could get some people to want to sponsor the pod. But alas, we both have day jobs. We just do not have the time.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say that we've like begged for medieval times tickets many, many times. And we had to pay for ourselves to go.
We did, but we did get a discount through my work. So
Yeah, again, not the podcast. The podcast doesn't have fog machine medieval times discount money.
I know it was a whole thing.
Mhm.
It was, yeah. It was an interesting time. All this to
This is-
say, this
all
is a
this to
podcast
say-
about Nathan Fielder.
Yeah, so in short, I think our conclusion was that I would like another season of Nathan for You. And then somehow you were saying that I said that it would be great to get like a full season of The Hunk, and then you decided that all white men look alike between 40 to 50 and 60 plus.
Yes,
Yes.
I will be
The
doubling down
curse.
on that.
It's your curse. Face blindness between specific ages is your curse.
This is my cross to bear.
Yeah.
Please keep me in your thoughts if I ever have to go to a networking event with CEOs or any of that kind of, C-suite. It's a very hard situation for me to be in. So
You need me to be like the Devil Wears Prada Andy who has like the booklet memorizing everyone's names, and I just like pretend to sneeze but then like whisper in your ear like, oh, that's Michael Scott. He runs a very successful paper company.
yes, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Should we talk about a different man? Should we talk
Which
about
one?
the Q&A hosted by Spike Jonze?
Yes, I'd love for you to tell me all about it.
Yes. Did you watch this one or no?
I only watched a little bit of it,
Okay.
but I saw that you had notes, so I was like, okay, we're set for this one.
Yes. Well, how familiar are you? Sorry. How
am
familiar
not.
are you with Spike Jones? I always want to say
Not at
Jonze, but
all.
that's not how you pronounce his name. Not
One,
at all.
I can't pronounce many words, so no worries. And two, I don't know at all.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm actually surprised.
Why? Just tell me about him. Maybe I do know him.
He's directed a lot of really good movies.
Oh, okay, like what?
Being John Malkovich, Adaptation, and Where the Wild Things are probably
Okay.
like the most famous. Oh, and Her.
Okay.
But yeah, he is a very successful film director. He also has done a ton of music videos. I'm a big, this is so random, but I really love the Beastie Boys, and he directed some documentaries about them, and he also did a lot of their music videos.
Okay. Very
But
nice.
anyway, yeah, I think it's very cool that he hosted this panel.
Mhm.
So this panel, I believe they did it after the show was finally done. I think this was at like a for your consideration type of event, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, so the main things that I feel like they talked about, they didn't talk about the finale that much. They talked a lot about just the general shooting of the show and the tone. How they wanted the cameras to be really far away, like surveillance cameras, which I think we had called out a couple of times in
Mhm.
our podcast as well. And they talk a lot about the tone, which I am interested to get into a little bit. Apparently, this was like something that they were very excited by, talking about the tone and when they were trying to figure out the tone of the show. But I think we kind of felt that we didn't know, like, if it's supposed to be a comedy or what's really going on, and it seems like that's kind of what they were going for. They wanted it to
Mhm.
feel like the audience was really there when these things were happening,
Mhm.
and they were trying to make the actors kind of feel more free when they were shooting. They also did a ton of improv and would
Mhm.
give the actors prompts rather than necessarily shooting with a script.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know how much you want me to bring in some of the other interviews that I saw on these different topics. So, like, for example, and I think it's easiest if we use the character names
Yeah.
to not confuse anyone if you don't know the actual actors' names. So Kara, for example, apparently the whole explanation that she gave about her art scene where she was eating the sliced turkey, or she was giving the sliced turkey, sorry, to Whitney and then let her eat it. Her whole explanation on the meaning of that was completely improvised, and they actually weren't intending on her explaining it. And Kara's whole thing was supposed to be that she does this art and then doesn't explain it, but other people are always talking about it and interpreting it in certain ways. So a lot of it apparently was improv, and they thought that she had just explained it in a really beautiful, succinct way and called her to ask her if they would let her, them put it in. And then with the surveillance that we've been talking about throughout the season, one of the interviews that I had listened to, something I thought that was really interesting, is that they would carry around a window when they didn't have a good spot
Yes.
to set up the camera and hold up the window and just put it wherever they wanted. And what was really interesting, so Whitney's dad in the show, do you remember his name? Paul. So Paul was saying that that kind of filming was very freeing because he didn't have to focus on where the camera was, because a lot of times they couldn't even see where the camera was. So he didn't know, like, if he should be cheating to camera in a typical filming. So he just acted as if he was in like a real conversation with the person he was speaking to and didn't even know where the camera was. So I think that that's a really unique filming experience for these actors, where they probably haven't even been in a situation where they know where the audience is and what angle they're at. So I thought that that was really interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like I think Paul, the actor who played Paul, also said when he went to other sets after, he found it like so annoying because they'd be like, "Okay, you have to go to your mark here." And after
Mm,
coming from this show, he was kind
mhm.
of like, "This is so much better." Like you kind of
Yeah.
get to do whatever.
Mhm. Yeah, he also told a pretty funny story of auditioning for the show, about how he had to do the cherry tomato scene, and he had
Yeah.
to do the self-recording and send it in of him talking to his wife about it. And she was reading the other actor's lines to him while he was doing the self-tape. And she was like really getting on him for not knowing his lines and kind of wanting him to hurry up with it. So I thought that that was really fun. And a very funny
Yeah.
scene to record with your partner.
Super funny. Yeah, they also
Mhm.
shot during COVID, which I think we expected because this came out in like 2023. So,
Mhm. Well, I didn't necessarily think about it until the Rachel Ray audience. And then
mhm.
sometimes some of the camera people on the show had a mask on, but they did a really good job of not showing that it was COVID, considering
Yeah.
they were still filming during that time. So there was only once or twice when I noticed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Talking about the actress playing Kara again, apparently they kind of wrote the character around her too, which I thought was really interesting. They had written a
Mm-hmm.
basically completely different character, and then when she came on to the project, they wrote around her to
Mm-hmm.
kind of make it a bit different, which I thought was unique. Now I'm like so curious what the original character was meant to be like.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think I can picture Kara in a different way.
Yeah.
From the interviews that I saw, they had said that Kara, her character is like very difficult to read, and even the actress herself is very difficult to read. So
Yeah.
that worked really well with Whitney's character, where she wants that instant gratification. She wants to know that people like her, and she wants to get those results and see how people are responding to her so that she can alter her character to best appeal to that individual. And so when Kara is like very difficult to read, and when she's looking at you and like sits in those silences, you can't tell, is she happy with me? Is she upset with me? And so I think that that really helped build up Whitney's character and gave them a really interesting dynamic, because so many other people in the show, you can tell what they're thinking and feeling, and Whitney thrives in that environment where she knows how to alter herself. I saw Emma Stone or Whitney do an interview where she was saying that Whitney's like this human mood ring who's constantly just trying to feel what other people's moods are and change herself to match those characters. So I really loved the inclusion of Kara and thought that she was like a great pairing for Whitney.
Yeah. Okay, do we want to talk about the finale or do we want to keep talking about the different characters that they had written?
Totally up to you. We can go through the finale if you like.
All
We can kind
right.
of just bounce around. If you're here, you're not here, because we're the most succinct and orderly, I would say. We can just go with
Yes.
how it feels.
Okay, we'll just be free flowing like when they were filming the
Hmm.
show and improving.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I think in both of the things that I watched, Benny was like very reluctant to explain the finale or really guide the viewer into what exactly the meaning of the finale was, which I think is smart. I think, he wants people to talk about the show for sure. And when it's such a weird ending, I think naturally everyone's trying to figure out why it ended that way. And he was kind of like, you got to figure it out on your own. I'm not going to give you the answer. But I did think one of the most interesting things that he said was that they came up with the ending almost immediately when they came up with the idea for the show. So within 10 minutes of
Hmm.
creating the show, they had basically come up with the ending and then they mapped out where to go from, beginning to get to that ending and the payoff at the end. What did you
Hmm.
think about that fact? How did you see that coming, I guess? I don't think we had talked about this at all when we were watching.
The ending, I think, is very clear from anyone who listened to our other episodes. We absolutely did not see coming.
Yeah.
Actually, we had a comment on our YouTube video where someone was saying that it was really funny for them after they had seen our final episode to go back and listen to the Stuart Laws episode, because apparently Stuart blatantly told us what happened multiple times. So I have to go back and listen to that, because apparently it had been revealed to us and we
That's
just
so funny.
are absolutely thick and did not realize what was being told to us. So I think it'll be fun to go back and listen to that episode and find out. But no, I was very, very surprised. I think I was very surprised at the lack of characters we saw that episode. Um,
Mhm.
really focusing on this one scene that is so different from the other ones, where the curse is like implied and is more. I think we have all seen Nathan explaining where the initial idea for this show. I think you had explained in an earlier episode, but if anyone's forgotten, Nathan actually met someone who had asked him for money in a parking lot, and he said he didn't have any. And this individual told him, like, I curse you. So when he went inside, it was like sitting in his head and he kept thinking about it. So he went and he got $20 out of an ATM, went and gave it to her in the parking lot and asked, like, hey, has the curse been lifted? And she said yes. So it's one of those things where in that moment, he and Benny had talked about, okay, well, what if she wasn't there when you got back? Even though you don't believe in curses, how does something that someone says to you integrate itself into your real life? How does it live rent free in your head? How does it impact your decisions? Is something that someone says going to haunt you or impact your decision making? Like this whole chicken thing, we never got a conclusion to. Who put it in the bathroom at the firehouse? Who
Yeah, we'll never
knows?
know.
We'll never know. So there's so many things throughout the show where what someone says and how someone interprets it is so important to that character and how they act. For example, with Nathan and Dougie's, or sorry, Asher and Dougie's relationship, where it's so blatant that Dougie grew up bullying Asher. But Asher can't accept that information even when it's blatantly told to him, because it would mean that he grew up without friends, and it would mean that they don't have the relationship he thought they had. Even when Whitney blatantly tells him, like, this relationship isn't working, I don't want to be with you, he can't accept that. And so his actions, yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say he can only accept the things that he really wants to. So he accepts the fact that the curse is real, even though that is the most blatantly random thing for him to accept. He has no proof of the curse being real, but he goes to these great lengths to prove that the curse is definitely real. Yet when he gets this information, like, yeah, exactly like you said, you know, Dougie is not his friend and his wife hates him. He can't accept that information, even though it's kind of Occam's razor-esque, where it's like the most obvious explanation for what's going on. He can't accept it.
But it's also a little bit, like, at least to me, relatable. Like, to find out that, like, your best friend actually doesn't like you and that your partner doesn't love you and doesn't want to be with you, like, it is incredibly difficult to accept and takes, like, a long time. Like, I would be like, but then my whole life is a lie. And what does that mean? And what does that mean about me? So I just think that there's so many of these little things where you're like, oh, that's so silly. But it's also, a lot of these awkward interactions and scenes are very relatable. Now, all of that being said, something that really stood out to me during watching all these interviews is how in some categories, you and I would come up with an explanation for something. And specifically, the one that I was thinking about is Dougie's drinking.
Yeah.
And I think that I thought, whether it was a listener, I couldn't remember if someone called in and told us about it or if you had come up with it. But I thought we had come up with like a really great explanation for why he was doing that. We had said that Dougie deciding to use the breathalyzer partway through the drive was to prove to himself that he could drink and drive successfully, so that he could prove to himself that he is not the reason that his wife passed away. And I thought, wow, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I'm understanding this character more. And then Benny was asked that at one of these panels, and he had kind of said, oh, I don't know, he's an alcoholic. He didn't think about it until partway through the drive. And I was like, oh, so maybe it's not anything that we thought. And I kind of like our explanation better. But I think some of these things and like some of these little interactions, like the audience and us, really overthink and really overanalyze. And that's so much of this show, is like these awkward little interactions where we want there to be all this meaning behind it. And even the actors, when they were in this panel, they would be asked a question and, you know, Benny might have a long explanation, and then some of the other people are like, I have no idea why it was that way. I think I was surprised that there weren't more clear and concise answers to some of the questions that I had, and that it wasn't like, this is the answer. Like, a lot of the times the answer was like, I don't know, maybe it's this, maybe it's not that. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where sometimes, you know, the answer is just, it is what it is. The clouds are green because the clouds are green in a story, and the author wanted to make it that way. It feels like sometimes that is kind of how it ends up being when they're answering a lot of these questions. I thought it was really interesting that when Benny was talking about like describing why he's like, people need to find a reason for everything. And he's like, so you can figure out what your reason is and why you think this happened to him, but at the end of the day, like, it's just a thing that happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because especially at these panels, it's a bit of an artsier show. Going to a panel discussion with Nathan Fielder and Benny Softy, like, it might draw like a bit of an artsier audience and people who really want to think a lot. And so many people, I think, want to pose questions that are really deep and are noticing a lot of things. Like someone on one of the panels had said, "Hey, Nathan, like I noticed you inserted these specific things from your previous shows and from your previous experiences." And Nathan's explanation was like, "Oh, maybe I'm just a really limited actor. And those are just the things that I know because I didn't realize that I had included those things." And so we can overanalyze and really think about something. And it just wasn't intentional. It just, this laugh track seemed to fit here, or this seemed to be a nice object to include. And it's like, it's just what they had around. So I think there's some things in this show that were really intentional and specific. And part of the fun is kind of trying to overanalyze every little thing and then realizing in hindsight, oh, it just was what it was. It didn't really matter. Nothing
Yeah.
happened to the casino, Yeah, the
well,
reporter
okay,
did nothing.
They did talk about that a little bit, and I think it was Benny said specifically that the whole reason that when they were mapping out the show, they had all these things happening. For example, like they had characters dying and all of these really dramatic things that could happen, and then they kind of realized that the real tension is actually just thinking that anything could happen at any moment in time. So they
Mhm.
cut a lot of the actual kind of dramatic results that could have taken place just so
Mhm.
that there would be that really high tension and make it so that there wasn't a lot of payoff for it, which I thought was really interesting. It's kind of the opposite of what you would think a show would want to do, but I think they were just so focused on like having this specific tone. And then they also
Mhm.
talked about the fact that the title of the show did a lot of the heavy lifting with making people feel that something's going to happen. And I
Mhm.
think that's kind of what we got caught up in too. Every week we were
Yeah.
like, okay, it's got to be the curse. They got our
Yeah.
asses, Meg. They
Yeah.
fucking got us.
Every time, not surprised. Yeah, I think a lot of the content I consume is like British comedy, British jokes, like British panel shows. And I feel like they like to connect everything. They like to loop back around to something that was said. They like to over connect. And so I feel like a lot of what I look for, and I used to design escape rooms, I'm very much about making connections. And I'm like, this has to lead to this, which leads to this. And it's really clever when it loops back around. So I feel like I'm always trying to find that. And so in this show, where again, we'll start going down a path and then just stop. My brain is like, no, it must mean something. It must connect to something. And then it just doesn't. So I feel like it goes against all of my instincts. And specifically, when the guy who moved into the passive house switched his ovens, and then we
Yes.
had we had Whitney wanting to change the outside facade of the house to this shattered glass. I was like, 100% this house is exploding. I was like, you cannot convince me that we didn't figure out that this house is exploding. And then it just didn't. And I'm just left here being like, but it was clever of me to figure out it should explode.
In a different show, that's what would have happened too. Like I think with a different
Yeah.
director and different writers, like that's where it would have
Mhm.
gone.
Yeah, so there's so many different things that start and then just don't go anywhere, and it just makes you tense all the time, and it makes you a little uncomfy, and that is what the show is. And I thought it was very fun, and all the comments, I feel like people are so divided on the ending of this show. Like in some of these
Yeah.
panels, I was reading the YouTube comments or on Reddit some comments. Some people are saying this is genius, this ending is revolutionary, like this is exactly the kind of ending I hoped for. And other people think this is the most ridiculous ending. You've ruined the show. What a horrible way to end it. And it feels like people are so divided on the ending of this like 10 episode series that's like pretty silly when you think about it. And people are so divided. And I want to have a really strong opinion, but I'm just like, I'm kind of in the middle. Like, I think it's a really interesting ending. And I like it when something happens that I can't predict. I
Mhm.
prefer if I can predict it and I like kind of pat myself on the back. But I think it's really interesting that like the whole time I really didn't know where this was going at all.
Yeah, I kind of related, but I have a real issue right now with people
Mm.
on Book Talk. I'm always coming for Book Talk lately, but every time I see a book review on Book Talk, it's either this is the greatest book I've ever read or this is the worst book I've ever read. And the people who think it's the best are in the comments being like, well, you just didn't get it. And I
Mm.
feel like we've lost a lot of nuance as a society. People are so they just need to have really strong feelings about something.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're like, I thought it was fine, then
Mm-hmm.
you're either really stupid and everyone's going to convince you that it was the worst thing, or people are going to try and convince you it was the best thing. I'm kind
Mm-hmm.
of the same mind as you. I think I lean more towards being quite positive on the ending. I agree. Like, I think not knowing where it was going was really fun. And I think it was in a way that I haven't necessarily experienced with another scripted TV show before. Like, I've seen a lot of shows where I'm like, oh, I really couldn't tell you where this is going. Talked a lot about how I love the show Industry, and like that's a show
Mm-hmm.
that just burns through plot like you've never seen before. Like every episode just runs through so many plot points that you're like, how can they keep coming up with more? Similar kind of thing. It's like you never really know where it's going, but in a different way where it still all
Mm-hmm.
makes sense versus this being so surreal and so out
Mm-hmm.
there. I feel like they took a really big swing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they expected that people were going to be very divided on the ending, but I think it was kind of the perfect ending for Asher in a way. I think kind of like we discussed last week when we were talking about it after just watching it, I think Asher's character kind of he claims he's so willing to change everything for Whitney, but at the same time, we see even like in this 9 months later or whatever, however long the time jump is, Whitney's starting to get annoyed with him again. He just can't help himself, and I think he is not willing to make changes in his life, like, maybe get out of this toxic relationship, maybe get out of this toxic friendship with Dougie. He's not willing to make those kinds of changes to actually better himself. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it kind of made sense that it's like, he's no longer grounded. He's got to float off into space.
I think if I ignore like the plot and I think about the tone, which was spoken about a lot in these panel sessions that we saw, I think throughout the series, it's almost very tense and there's not a lot of comedic relief. Whereas the
Mhm.
last episode, there was a lot of comedic relief. Like, I found the last episode very funny, especially in
Yes.
comparison to all of the other ones. So I feel like the payoff is almost, and like the reward for the viewer is like, look, you've spent all season being very tense and very worried. Or maybe you're someone who doesn't get worried about anxious situations. Okay, good for you. Um, and then almost the reward is like this episode that's very funny. And yes, something very sad happens, but the amount of joy like you as a person probably experience watching it. Like you think about Whitney scuttling around the house. It is so funny.
It's so
And
good.
so it's like I almost feel like if you think about the tone, it's like very tense to like pretty funny, lighthearted ending. You know, you see an actual curse, something supernatural is actually happening. So it's just like even though someone dies, we assume
Yeah, we assume.
unless Asher's like living on the moon next or something weird. It'd be funny if he was like beamed up by like a UFO. We see like Asher being studied. But I think that it's like a very joyful ending in a sense of like there's a lot of relief and like funny moments. Um
Which
yeah.
honestly just to add to that, we've seen all season 2 Asher being referred to as the court jester. He's
Mm-hmm.
never taken seriously. He can't do
Yeah.
anything right. He can't even do well in his corporate comedy class. You know,
Devastating.
HGTV doesn't take him seriously. Dougie doesn't take him seriously. No one takes him seriously. And this
Mm-hmm.
is the one time where it's like literally life or death. Like, you need to take him seriously for once. Like, everyone for once just needs to actually believe Asher and listen to what
Mm-hmm.
he's saying. And it's just like the poetic kind of justice of
Mm-hmm.
finally they realize, like, oh, maybe we should be listening to Asher, and it's too
Yeah.
late. He's gone.
Yeah, you'll never listen to Asher. We also, again, there's a lot of conclusions we don't get.
Mm-hmm.
Whitney, we don't get to see her find out that Asher is gone.
Yeah.
We don't see the conclusion of a lot of these stories. We see Benny, we see Dougie see what happens, but that's the only character. And like a lot of the people watching think that this is for a movie and maybe aren't even believing their eyes. But there's still a lot left hanging. And something very funny someone had messaged us was like, "Oh, I can't believe that you watched Asher die and Whitney have a baby and you didn't mention Nathan dressing as a baby in the rehearsal."
Oh my God.
I was like, honestly, I'm ashamed. I was like, that's my bad. We should have immediately jumped to baby Sully. And
Yeah.
I apologize, quite frankly, to everyone.
How could we miss that, honestly?
It should have immediately been the segue of like, because especially when he was like, oh, there's a little bit of me in you. And then it
Ugh.
just turns into baby Sully. And then he grows up again to become like the world's greatest pilot. So it's like the curse immediately turns into the rehearsal and we just keep going.
Do you think Nathan could have asked Emma Stone to be Sully's mom in the rehearsal? We really could have brought it full circle.
Yeah, I'm really mad he didn't now, actually. But again, I think just what we were saying, this is like my extreme desire to like everything must connect. I'm like, the story must continue in this way. That would
It
have
must
been
connect.
very funny. That would have been
Oh my gosh.
exquisite. Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, okay. So I feel like there wasn't a big explanation for the finale. Therefore, what we said is correct because we're allowed to take whatever explanation we want.
Yeah, sure. Tell us why we're wrong in the comments.
I still think like the curse had to have been real, right?
Yeah, I mean, he floated into space. I think that the most like logical, if anything is logical in this world, I think our previous discussion where Whitney looked at him and like cursed him in that moment of like, I don't want to be with you, drawing it back to the last conversation we saw them have, where Asher had said, I am here until I realize that you don't want me to be here anymore, and then I'll disappear. There's like a little bit more connections of like Rachel Ray saying, oh, these house flippers are going to turn your world upside down. Like they have like little things like that throughout it. But I think if I were to say like, I really need an explanation and I want there to be something definitive, I would probably land on that. Whitney cursed him, decided she didn't need him anymore, and then he flew away. So I guess like Whitney's kind of like the star of the show, like her desires are what's most important in this final, and Asher wasn't able to change enough. So she just needs herself and her son and doesn't want Asher around anymore. And if there's a different explanation, let us know, or if you have a different thought, let us know. But I think that that's probably the most like textbook explanation for what happened. I think what we had said last time, actually.
Yeah. Okay, we also got some info on kind of Benny's thoughts on HGTV, which I thought was very funny. I think in one
Mm-hmm.
of the interviews, someone asked kind of like, how could you use HGTV? And he was like, well, Nathan literally made a place called Dumb Starbucks and didn't get in trouble. So we just kind of
Mm-hmm.
went for it.
Oh, that's so funny they didn't ask.
Which I don't know if they asked, but it sounds like they just wrote it in that way, and they're like, it's going to be HGTV. Like, it's
Yeah.
fine. It's going to be fine.
Mhm.
But it sounds like Benny Safdie watches a lot of HGTV because he was
Yeah.
talking about Flip or Flop, which is the
Mhm.
show that I was also talking about with the couple that got divorced, and then
Mhm.
they brought in the new wife, and then they
So
made the new
weird.
show. Well, but yeah, and he talked a lot about how they have such a big focus on families and how
Mhm.
it's kind of like the kids become like props on the show, which I think is a pretty hot topic right now and in the last few years. I don't remember if this was as much of a discussion point in 2023. Maybe they were like a little bit ahead of the zeitgeist on this. But it sounds like he did kind of want to look into this phenomena where these people get famous on HGTV and then essentially have like a content farm where they're like, okay, now we got to make a baby and people can follow along with
Mhm.
us having a kid, and then the kid can be on the show and we can monetize our children and all of these kind of very dark things that happen when people get famous, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah, I had watched one of the panels where he was explaining that when his wife was pregnant and he had to go watch or he had to go to the doctor and wait for these long appointments, he would be in the waiting room and HGTV was always on. So he was watching a lot of content there, and that's part of the inspiration, exactly what you were saying, Flip or Flop, which I thought was really interesting and is also like very funny to think of these like directors and producers like watching HGTV, like, just being like very normal people watching these silly reality shows and seeing what happens. And I thought that they did a really great job portraying what and some of these shows are like crazy, the concepts and like what's happening in them, like Selling Sunset, for example. I haven't seen the last few seasons, but like a quarter of it is selling homes, and then 75% is like these people's love lives, their personal turmoil, like the interrelationship problems. So much of it is like not about the actual content of the show. And I think we're
Yeah.
seeing that more and more. Everything like there's so many shows on Netflix that are this unscripted reality TV, which is so funny because this is like the first actual fully scripted show that Nathan is like acting, writing, starring, producing, directing. So I thought that that was very interesting. Like he has a really good eye for this and like a really good understanding of how people would act in these situations.
Yeah. I was gonna say kind of on like the writers and directors watching normal TV. I think it was Nathan in one of the panels who said, like we don't want people just like sitting on their phone when the show's on. Like we want people to be engaging with the content and like trying to figure out what's gonna happen, and like we want people to discuss it. But then he was also like, and like I also sit on my phone when I'm watching TV sometimes. Like we all watch bad TV. It's like
Mhm.
there's no shame in watching trash TV. Like Selling Sunset, before they really stopped doing the home selling, when they like used to pretend that they're at least selling the homes, I was all in. But feel like they've lost the secret sauce now and they don't sell enough homes, and I'm like, I just can't be watching these girls fight anymore.
I haven't seen the last few seasons, so not to take a too much of a detour into Selling Sunset, but are they not selling homes anymore?
I think the problem is they before, like, do you remember the $20 million home that
Oh,
Davina was
yeah.
trying to sell? And that was like a huge
Yeah,
plot
the
point.
huge scandal, yeah.
Yeah, so this woman, they're all real estate agents for anyone who hasn't seen Selling Sunset. And they work for this real estate brokerage that's in LA. And so they sell these like really extravagant homes. Occasionally there's celebrities who come on, but there was this home that was super expensive and it needed to be sold for like $20 million, and they couldn't find a buyer. And it was like this big drama, like multi-season story arc about this $20 million home. And then they kind of stopped paying attention to like, are they selling the houses? And I'm like, I want to, like, I like seeing the houses. I like seeing what these rich people are putting in their houses. That's part of the fun.
Mhm. Yeah, I think you
Um,
do have to focus a bit more on the content, like what the
yeah,
show is like selling, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
Something I was thinking too, I would love to see this style of show, but kind of like digging into a sports documentary. Because I know you are a big Formula One Drive to Survive fan. And I'm a
Yeah.
big Full Swing girly. So
Oh,
I
okay.
I feel like that would be really interesting, kind of delving into these niche sports. I feel like would be a
Mhm.
very, very cool take on this style of show.
So there was a show on Netflix, I think it's called We Are the Champion, and each episode was about like a very different niche sport, and I thought that that was a really interesting series. So you had like the cheese rolling down the hill,
Oh
and
yeah.
people like they literally just like chuck themselves down a hill, and it's like pretty much impossible to not break a limb or get hurt. And at the end, you win this cheese. They had the spicy pepper eating. I can't remember some of the other sports, but is there like a specific sport you have in mind you think would like go really well for this?
I think any of them, like there's so many good sports documentaries. I mean, I don't even care that much about golf. I care a little bit, but I love watching Full Swing. I thought it was super
Mm.
fascinating to watch all of these people who are trying to, make it really big in professional golf, and I didn't know any of like the ins and outs of kind of how the tournaments work and how you need to kind of stay at a certain level to be allowed to play on the tour, and if you get kicked off the tour, it's like all this money. And then for anyone who doesn't know about golf, there was a lot of drama between the PGA and another golf tournament or tournament series in Saudi Arabia owned one called Live Golf, and that was a whole thing. There's just like a lot of stuff going on in the golf world, and it seems like a boring sport, but then when you actually meet the people, it's very interesting, and they get so rich from playing golf that like that's also part of the fun, I think.
Yeah, it's so fun when other people get super rich. Love it for them. I think what's really important, and like, I don't follow that many sports, but I think it helps exponentially when you learn a bit about the individual. So I think what's hard
Mhm.
with like all these big team sports is there's so many different people, there's so many different teams. It feels like a very high barrier to entry to get in and to like really understand. So I know you play in a lot of different fantasy leagues, so you've learned a lot more over time. But when
Yeah.
I think about someone who does it exceptionally, in my opinion, it's MMA. And so before the fight, they will put out almost like this mini series that explains and shows you who each person is, tells you about their family life, tells you about their fight history, tells you about why these people might be rivals. And I think they do such a good job explaining it. It makes me so much more bought into what I'm watching. It's the same with Drive to Survive. Like there's only so many people, like you can actually learn the names of every single person racing. You can learn every single team because there's only 2 drivers per team. And so you very quickly can learn about everyone competing in the sport. And so that I think really helps add to my personal enjoyment of the entertainment is learning more about the people, but it's still all about the races, all about whatever the sport is. So I think that there's a really good balance there where it gives you all the backstory you need, but then what you're sitting and watching is the fight, is the race. So again, with golf, if they had that little preview explaining things where, you don't have to watch it, but I think for a lot of people who maybe are new to watching golf or are new to watching a sport, it's kind of helpful to get that backstory and helps get people into it. And like, for example, UFC was going to go out of business. And then they put out The Ultimate Fighter, which is a reality show where they had different coaches who were current MMA fighters. And they would train people and they would set up fights until there was one winner who would get a UFC contract. And that completely saved the sport and got people bought into it. So I think that there's a lot there for reality shows that are centered around a sport or, a specific venture, whether it's flipping houses. And then you learn a bit about the people, but the focus is still on the task itself. And with a lot of shows right now, the actual main crux of what we're focused on is lost to the reality show of it all. And I think that
Mhm.
if there was a little bit more balance, it would be nice.
Yeah. Just want to give a shout out to Hard Knocks for all my all my football people, all my football girls. um which is like one of the OG reality documentary series. It was started in like literally I think 2001.
Mhm.
Um And for your context, Meg, because I'm sure you're not out here watching Hard Knocks, but it
I am
essentially
not.
it follows a football team during the training off season, and it kind of
Mhm.
like they talk to different players, some of whom are, really famous. Like this past season was the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, that's your
Let's
favorite.
go Bills Mafia.
Was it who what were we doing? It was like fuck Mary Kill, and you had picked like the person just because they like the Bills and you thought you could get tickets.
Yeah, I
What,
don't remember
who was
now, but it
that?
is important to me.
Yeah, I don't remember what that was, but like you placed them like quite on a pedestal for a team that's not even Canadian.
Well, they're like right across the
They're like
border.
as close to Canada as you can get.
There is currently a Canadian on the team. Josh Palmer does currently play for the Bills, and he is Canadian. So, like,
Which
we've at least
team
got one.
is there another team that has like the most Canadians on it? Like which team has the most Canadians?
Oh, I'm actually not sure. There's quite a few Canadian players, but I don't know which one has the most. I guess I could try and Google
I'm
it.
willing to fully give my allegiance to whichever team has the most Canadians right now.
The problem is that there's so many
It's
players on a
changes.
football team, and so trades are done for this season. Um, Generally, apparently, according to Google, there are the numbers fluctuate. This is the stupid AI overview is telling me the
Yeah.
LA Rams generally has a lot of Canadian talent,
Okay.
but I don't know.
Done. LA Rams for life.
But I don't know if they have that many Canadians right now.
Or until next year when a different team has the most Canadians. I will always just cheer for whichever team has the most Canadians on it, I think. If I'm ever like forced to cheer for a football team.
The LA Rams are actually kind of a good bandwagon. If anyone's looking for a bandwagon to jump on right now.
Okay, should we loop back
to the curse?
Yeah. I want to talk about the Jimmy Kimmel Live interview that Emma and Nathan had done together. I thought that this was very Nathan For You-esque. If you've seen Nathan For You, if you haven't, oh my gosh, you are going to have the best time ever. You're welcome. Go watch it immediately. Nathan is so good at setting up these little bits, and it's like my favorite thing that he does. So in some of the reviews for The Curse, the New York Times specifically had come out and said that Nathan was a very stiff actor. And so for this Jimmy Kimmel interview, he came out with like this kind of baggy pants, like baggy black jacket, a white shirt, like this chain with a cross on it. He had this hat and these like cunty little sunglasses on. And he was being very like laid back, chill, cool dude of it all. And so Jimmy had like immediately addressed this, being like, hey, Nathan, like, what's up with the new look? And he's like, hey, man, like, this is me. And the whole bit was that he's a very cool and chill dude in his normal day-to-day life. That in fact, him acting as the stiff, awkward character on The Curse was an incredible acting feat because of how different it is from him in real life. And Emma corroborated this story, and they had like this fun little segment where Nathan was making Jimmy Kimmel call the New York Times to leave a message to ask them to redact that from their article, because he now knows like, oh, actually Nathan's an incredible actor. They had this really funny bit where they had Jimmy read a script that Nathan had written to leave a message for the New York Times. And he said, oh, I'm just having my afternoon banana, which I think I just like love the little inserts like that. He had left a message saying that he is a concerned subscriber, wanting them to rectify this article, and that they were talking about, oh, what are we doing next for Thanksgiving? And Nathan was saying, oh, I just have so many auditions on Thanksgiving. Like, I don't have plans. Like, you guys wouldn't know about it, but like, I'm a very in-demand actor now. So it was like such a funny, joyful bit. I wouldn't say that we learned too much more about The Curse or a deeper meaning or anything, but I think it's just such a picture perfect example of how Nathan Fielder thrives in these scripted situations and how his concepts are so strong and play so well. And, you know, I think we all wish, you know, you read a little negative review about yourself and to take up a whole Jimmy Kimmel Live interview to be like, let's address this thing and get it removed is so funny. And we've seen on Nathan For You how he can really spend an enormous amount of time and money to focus on a short interview segment on a late night show. And so I thought that this was a really, really fantastic advertisement for the show. And I really hope that if you haven't seen it, you go give it a watch. It's pretty short and it's very fun. And then the only other thing that I had wanted to chat about, unless you wanted to comment on that segment at all.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think one of the funniest things and the most relatable things about Nathan Fielder to me is just the fact that he is so good at portraying kind of being obsessed with something, where he just is obsessed with this bad review, or his character is obsessed with this bad review, and he's gonna take it to the millionth degree and just go so far to kind of get this review taken down. Or, you know, same thing with the curse. He's so obsessed with this curse. He's so obsessed with becoming a pilot in the rehearsal. All of these things, I feel like it's just so relatable. If only I had the HBO budget or even the Showtime budget to pursue my obsessions in such a way.
Yeah, you think about how he absolutely dragged like Paramount Plus with
Mm-hmm.
HBO's budget. Like, is Nathan Fielder the pettiest? Could
Oh my God, he
anyone
might be.
Can anyone dream of being pettier? I don't
I
know.
love when people ask me, they're like, "Oh, what is the curse on? Is it on?" I'm like, "It's on Paramount Plus." Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, if you watched the rehearsal, you would know that. I will never
Yes.
forget that it was on Paramount Plus because of that episode.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's really, really incredible. Yeah, I wish I not only had the courage, but the budget to pursue my small gripes in the world. And I think he has some pretty big gripes that are worth pursuing, but also like just the courage to go through with it and to just be like, this is my opinion. These are my thoughts. Bring it on. Just
Yeah.
exceptional. Yeah.
Well, even when they were pitching the show, Showtime thought that they were kind of joking, and they were like, "No, we're gonna take this like very seriously. This is like a serious show."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is very funny to hear them talk about like how they pitched the show. I think Benny had put together like some photos and we're like, this is the vibe. And they were like, okay, but like, what is it? And I think they had not done a very good job, or like from their perspective in explaining it, they had done a really bad job pitching it. And they just like believed in them as individuals based on their previous work, I think, where they were able to get the go ahead, which I think is so funny and very fun and like good for them. You know, live your dreams.
They have a strong vision, and luckily, you know, they have a lot of successful things behind them that
Yeah.
I think are make it a little bit easier when they come in with this half-baked idea that is mostly a vibe.
I love just being like, this is the mood of the show. This is the tone. This is the vibe.
And it
And like,
ends with him flying into space.
yeah, he floats away at the end. Truly incredible. I wish I could go pitch like, this is the vibe. This is like the collage that I've made. If we were to make a collage of this show, Nathan For Us, like what would be on our vibe collage?
Tinfoil toques, definitely.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
For all the conspiracy theories. What did we get on a lot of tangents about? Probably me
The
talking about like
weirdest
weird
stuff.
romance things.
Fanfics. We'll be like,
Yes.
this is like the main topic. It's over here. Even though I was just saying that I like the main topic to be the topic, it's not what we can all do. We're not all talented in that way. And like, even we'll chat before we start filming the episode. And I'm like, okay, we've gotten it all out of our system. We've chatted about our life. We're going to get in and talk about the curse. And then we were talking about your work holiday party and fog for like 10 minutes. And I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, this is great. I'm like, I have no idea how we got here, but this is like my full attention and interest is on this. Just crazy stuff happens in your life, I think.
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I just find myself in a lot of situations.
Yeah,
You
I think
know?
the vibe is like silly little goose, sometimes
Yeah.
on topic, sometimes a little wrong, but like we take it on the chin. You know, if you have a different opinion than us, that's okay. You might be way more correct than us, and you probably are, and that is totally cool. That's fine.
Unless you work at
The
HBO, in which case think you're probably incorrect because you're our
no.
enemies still.
Yeah, only a little bit though, but like we are so willing to not to put this rivalry aside that you might not know about, but that we know about. We'd love to mend the fence.
Yeah,
That
I'll be a bootlicker for HBO, but only if they give us some fun interviews.
yeah. Yeah, we've talked to a lot of people who are super down to come on the show, and then they'll be like, "Oh, HBO blanket said no podcasts." And we're like, "Oh, can we rebrand? Like, are we a podcast or are we like a casual conversation with like can we rebrand podcast? Is there a different word we can use to convince people to come on and to let HBO approve it?
Online talk show.
Non-media casual conversation between friends where no opinions are taken seriously.
But it is on the record.
But the record is up to one's interpretation. Like, what is a record to someone is off the record to others. Like, if we said at the beginning, if we said at the beginning of the episode, like, this is off the record, does that count? Is that enough?
I think you can't say this is off the record and then post it publicly. I think that posting it publicly would make it on the record.
What if we are playing, like, what if the people coming on are like, I am playing a role of someone. I'm playing a character of someone playing a character of the actor on the rehearsal.
Mm-hmm. That's a good idea, yeah.
And I am playing the character, a podcast host as a character, but not for real.
That's a good idea. We should try that next time.
Okay. Next time we get an interview, listen for the off the record disclaimer and spoilers at the beginning.
It'll be like we'll give them prompts instead of questions.
We'll be like, I'll be you and you be me.
Yeah, we'll be like, improv scenario. You get cast on a show, and it's a show that Nathan Fielder is going to be directing and starring in.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think he might say to you to prepare you for the next scene?
Okay, I think this is very good. I think we should line up an interview. We have to compile this all. So we are actors. Playing famously. Or not famously. Is that better? It's probably better to have less credibility, right?
Yeah, like, do we need to be on like ACTRA? Because like I'm not about to join a union or something for the podcast. That feels like a lot of work, and then we would have to pay dues.
We're going to talk about your commitment level after the show. Is this not like your whole focus?
Wouldn't we like have to go on strike with them? And like I do support the unions and I do support striking, but you know, it just feels like if this is just our side hustle, like am I then locked in to like I have to strike with the actor union? I can't go to my real job.
Yeah, it
feels a little complicated.
Can we get Nathan for Us, a Nathan Fielder fan podcast, listed as a show, and we are actors on the show?
But then we're non-union actors. We're like scabs. If there's ever if there's another strike, then we're scabs. We're like crossing the picket line. It's just like the ethics are not.
We need to consult a lawyer.
Yeah,
we need to consult a lawyer because now we do put out video.
Yeah.
So, like, technically no one knows other than maybe you know how I act in my real life. Outside of this filming, like, I could be super different. You'll never know. Don't look at my Instagram.
A regular Nathan Fielder in our midst.
Yeah, I think there's some loopholes here that we can exploit if we need. Should we start another podcast called Dumb Nathan for Us? And that's where we interview people?
Maybe a TikTok
not
account.
Nathan for us, not a podcast.
Dumb Nathan for you.
Dumb Nathan for you. So the other story that I had wanted to bring up was Emma Stone had brought it up, and I thought that it was a very interesting comparison to the show. So she told a story about how there was an episode of This American Life where there was a man who would walk up to people on the subway and just, we don't know what his reasons were, but he would just look at you and give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And
Okay.
just how something that someone randomly says or does to you or around you, even if it has absolutely no meaning, can impact you. And I think that that's a lot of what the curse is. So if like a man just walked up to you on the subway and you knew or you didn't know that he just looks at you and gives you like a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and we don't know his reasons, if he were to give you a thumbs up, would that change how you act throughout the day? If he gave you a thumbs down, would it change that? Is it something that you would think about a lot? So I think that that was a really interesting and unique example that really exemplifies like so much of the curse, where this little girl telling Nathan, like, I tiny curse you, has made him absolutely crazy. And how these small interactions with people you don't even know sometimes can really make or break your day. Like, I know if I'm driving and somebody like gets really upset, or if you're in a situation and you're walking by people having a fight, or maybe it has nothing to do with you, but someone like pushes past you while walking in like an aggressive way, and how it changes your mood and changes your day. So all these little interactions with people you can't control and you don't know how much it impacts your mindset, your mental health, how you see yourself. And maybe that's just for the overthinkers out there. But I thought that it was a really great explanation for how they tried to structure a lot of the show.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. I definitely agree. Like, there's definitely times when something happens in the morning when I'm commuting to work where it just kind of puts you in a shitty mood,
Mm-hmm.
and it's totally random and has nothing to do with you, but just either someone like says something or you see a weird interaction and it just throws off your entire day. I think that's pretty natural for most people. I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
humans, feed off of energy. I certainly do. And if the energy or the vibe is weird, it's gonna make the day weird and bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of the last talking point that I had for some of these shows, some of these post-show interviews. There's some panels. If it's something that interests you, definitely go and check it out. They were really fun and interesting to listen to. I really liked getting the different opinions of different actors, like something that maybe meant a lot to
Mhm.
one person. A different person on the panel was like, "Oh, that was really interesting to hear. I had no idea about that." So I think it was very funny to see their interpretations. And actually, I found that there was a lot of crowd work that they were actually doing. So it's like they talked a bit about the show, but Nathan in particular had a lot of funny bits with different audience members, or interacted with the audience very well. And I don't know how much they talked in depth about each of these shows and some of these panels, but they talked a lot and it was all very entertaining.
Yeah, and I feel like Nathan doesn't talk a lot about his work, so this was kind of a more, I'd say, vulnerable press tour from him. Like, even when he's talking about how different it was going from the unscripted to now being, on a scripted show and acting, and how he was worried about the fact that he had to act with Emma, who's obviously such an amazing actress, and
Mhm.
just generally how his mindset was different, and how he would do a scene, for example, and Benny would say, like, no, you need to go bigger. And he kind of had to get out of his own head and listen to the director, who's also an actor and also his friend and also
Mhm.
co-writer. So yeah, it's very interesting to hear all of them talk about it. I really wish we got more from the other characters in the show now, because hearing the actors talk about their experience and how they saw their characters, it just made me wish that there were more episodes so that we could get Even like
Mm-hmm.
episodes focused on each character would have been cool.
Yeah, that would have been super interesting. Yeah, again, there's so many people we didn't really get conclusions. We don't see how the finale impacts them. We don't see how anyone other than Dougie reacts to Asher's death. So there's definitely a lot more there to explore if they were to do another season, which would be really interesting. But unfortunately, I don't think we're getting another one.
No, I don't think so. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
They said they planned one out. They had like structured a second season, so it's not impossible, but
Mm-hmm.
just seems like crickets for 2 years or 3 years means probably it's not happening.
Yeah. It would be cool if it just randomly came out, though. I think we would know if they were filming it, but
Yeah. Yeah. Emma
mhm.
Stone seems booked and busy with other things.
Yes. Yeah, I really want to see her movie Begonia.
Mhm.
I've been waiting for it to come out. I live like a little bit in the boonies, so the theaters near me aren't playing it. But when it comes out on streaming, I really want to watch it. I think it looks really fantastic.
Yeah, I've heard very, very good things about it. So I also,
Hmm.
if I ever have time, will watch it.
Maybe we cover it.
That would be cool. Yeah, I'd be down to
Hmm.
talk about it. I think there'll be a lot to talk about.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, shall we play a voicemail that we got from Andy?
Sure. Yeah, we
Not
love
really
Andy.
talking. Yeah, we love Andy. It's not really talking about the finale, more so on a suggestion for what to do next, which I guess we can quickly set up our plan again for anyone who doesn't know. We're going to cover The Night Before, which is a holiday movie that Nathan Fielder has like a kind of small part in, but we thought it'd be fun and festive. And I did reread the plot because I was like, I don't really remember what happens in this movie. And I feel like it's going to be a really fun one to talk about because they kind of go on like a quest to get into a holiday party. So
Okay.
it's up your alley.
Like the wedding.
There's,
So offhand, I know absolutely nothing about this movie. I don't know the plot. I've never seen it. I know not a thing about it. Since you've mentioned it, I also have not looked it up. So it'll
yeah.
be completely new for me. But, we've seen Nathan scam his way into weddings and different events before. So that'll be fun.
So I think he's like a driver or something, or he's not like in the main trio of people
Mm-hmm.
trying to get into this exclusive party, but that'll be fun. So we'll watch that. And then we also wanted to do kind of a year-end wrap-up where it's not really going to be Nathan Fielder related. We were just kind of going to yap about some things from this year, put together a couple of lists of like what were our favorite albums, what were our favorite TV shows, movies, all of that cool stuff. And if you have any specific things that you want us to talk about that happened this year, send them through. You can send us an email, NathanForUsPodcast@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail. I'll put that in the show notes. DM us. Really, any of the above will be welcome. We'll definitely work in some Nathan Fielder stuff, though.
Mm-hmm. If you yell our names into the universe, it'll find us.
It's
So
true.
there's lots of ways to reach out to us. I'm normally on our Instagram, so if you shoot us a message, we can chat a bit.
It's almost always Meg.
Sometimes I try to let the person know that it's me. I'll just be like, "Oh, Kelly's doing this, blah blah blah."
I'm the worst. Yeah,
No.
to be honest, I block all of I call them my fun apps, like Instagram and TikTok are blocked on my phone all day. So I only have limited time on my good apps. So that's why I apologies to everyone, but I unfortunately am too addicted to my phone. So I have to
I'm
do this.
unruly. Wendy, what up, Wendy? On Instagram, messaged us at 12:30 at night once, and I was at a concert, and I happened to have my phone open and was looking at it as soon as she messaged. And I think I responded to her immediately at 12:30 p.m. And then I was like, man, Wendy's gonna think I'm so not cool.
You were like, just so we're clear, I'm at a concert. I'm out and about. I'm doing things. I actually also saw that message and I was at a party.
Yeah.
And I was sitting with my friend and I'm like, oh, my Instagram for my podcast got a message. Should we read it? And I went to open it and saw that Meg responded, and I knew she was at a concert.
Immediately.
And I was like, Dad, is Meg drunk responding to people on Instagram? What a hero. I was gonna do the same thing. This is no judgment zone. I was also gonna respond.
I Pretty much, unless like sometimes I'll see a message, and unless I'm at work or something, sometimes I'll forget to go back to it, and then if too much time passes, like I've forgotten it. But if you message us while I happen to be on the phone, like I'm someone where if you send me a text, like I'm not waiting an arbitrary amount of time. Like I'll respond immediately. I don't care. It's fine. Like I have no shame. I guess I'm feeling a little bit of shame in this moment, as just discussed, but I feel like Wendy understands.
Don't be ashamed. Okay, let's listen to Andy's voicemail.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Kelly. Hi, Megan. It's Andy in London again. Just a quick idea about some Nathan adjacent content that you may or may not be aware of, but it would be worth watching. Is a documentary called How To with John Wilson. It's produced by Nathan, and John is a filmmaker who films at all times and everywhere he goes, which leads him into some pretty interesting stories. A really, really funny series. I think there's 3 seasons of it. I don't know if they're making any more or not, but I suggest you give it a go. All right, talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you so much, Andy. We love to hear from you. Yeah, okay, so we've actually talked about How to with John Wilson to each other. I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast. But I've seen the first 2 seasons. I think, have you seen all 3?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. Well, I've definitely seen the first 2 seasons of How To. I don't think we watched the 3rd season. I'm not sure why. Like, I really like it, so I don't know why I wouldn't have watched it. I think the discussion that we've had is that um it might be hard to discuss just because a lot of the bits in How To with John Wilson, which I think Andy did a pretty good job explaining, essentially, this filmmaker, John Wilson, he films just a shit ton of B-roll, and pretty much he films his whole life. And then he painstakingly edits together with his team of editors narrative to kind of go with whatever has happened to him in that episode. So, for example, like the one that I always think about is he ends up going on this kind of weird quest where he goes to the Bang Energy CEO's like mansion, and the guy basically just like lets him into his house, and they go on this like weird journey together. But it's kind of just hard to explain the visual gags that are happening sometimes. So what do you think, Meg?
So I haven't really seen very much of it. Now, we do get message pretty regularly. Like we have another message that I was kind of laughing when we heard Andy. Like, let me go to our podcast Instagram. Someone else, I swear, just messaged us, unless it was Andy again. No, it was Joseph. He said, have you guys considered covering How To with John Wilson? So he sent that to us yesterday. So we have been messaged quite a bit. So if there is an interest, I think we could probably commit to giving it a go.
Yeah.
Maybe you and I try the first episode, try a recording, see if it makes sense. It might be something, because a lot of times the shows that we cover, people haven't seen in a while.
Yeah.
So we do a good chunk of like catching people up, explaining. I know that like some of the post-show recaps that I listen to, I'll forget exactly the order of it. I won't have watched it for a while, so I find it really helpful if the hosts kind of catch me up and help remind me of what's happening in the episode. It might be one of those things where if you're going to follow along with us, maybe you need to actually watch it with us and we describe a little bit less, and we just hope that people have seen it recently enough and we just kind of chat in general and we don't have to worry so much about someone remembering that visual gag. So I think we've had enough messages about it through a few years, actually. I think it's been recommended to us probably the most out of anything. We could, try the first episode and then we can maybe reflect on it and think like, not that our content is like so edited and highbrow or anything like that, but we can see if it's something we think we can do in a way that you would all enjoy and people would be interested in listening to.
Yes.
So I think we can definitely discuss it over the holidays and see, is this something we could make work? Frankly, having another show that has 3 seasons would be kind of nice.
Yes.
And then like if we do all of if we do like literally everything Nathan Fielder has ever been in or like touched, it would be pretty funny.
Yes, that's true.
Because then it would make us like the ultimate Nathan Fielder fans if there is a debate out there.
I'm like executive produced by Nathan Fielder. Like, what else is there?
Like, just go to his
I
IMDb. Anything he's even like breathed in, we should just cover, maybe.
Yeah, and again, like I do like How to with John Wilson. I think it would be more kind of a generic discussion for some of the episodes. I also remember like I definitely like cried in some of the
Really?
episodes. Like I think it's
I
quite
haven't seen it really.
the
So
episode with the risotto, I remember being like it's like very emotional, and I think part of it was that it ends with like the COVID pandemic starting. So I don't know if it's just because like when I watched it, it felt very like close to what was actually going on. But yeah, it's definitely, I think it's an option.
you can cry on the podcast. We can get vulnerable here. We can cry over
Dad,
some risotto.
should we be crying? He makes it for like
Should we cry more?
he makes it for his like elderly landlady.
Oh,
It's very
I was gonna
sweet.
say if it was a man, I'm like, you won't remember him anyway.
Only if
But
he's old.
older women, you can tell the difference.
And I think she's Eastern European, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. Anyways, so he did write on, he was EP on How to with John Wilson, obviously The Curse, The Rehearsal, Nathan For You. And then he was a consulting producer on Who Is America. I don't know if we want to touch that. No offense, you guys.
And then in our Spotify Wrapped, we did learn that America is like our #1 listeners. So
I'm just like, is it funny to have two Canadian people talking about a very American show where like we probably don't know what's going on?
Yeah. We'll talk about some ideas. If you have an idea, DM us, message us, scream it out your window. We'll try to put some things together. We had talked a few times about doing the chair company. That's kind of an option, but we also just kind of ran out of time a little bit with finishing The Curse and the holidays and our actual jobs. Hate to see it happen. Hate to see us having to do real work. Sad for us. Pray for us.
We're still waiting on generational wealth someday.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully it will come.
Hopefully it will come and we can just like be silly all the time. That would be ideal.
Yeah.
And then we can just like buy our way into fun events.
Meg really wants us to start faking that the events that I go to, like either through my job or just like through random connections. She thinks I should start pretending that we get invited for the podcast.
Okay, you're spoiling it. But yeah, Kelly gets to go to like Paramount Plus events, like Spotify events. I'm like, if you start posting on our pod accounts that like you're going, maybe they'll actually start inviting us as a pod to go. Mainly this only benefits me because you get to go anyway. But I would love that personally. If we could go to cool events like that, that'd be super fun. I think it would be so funny to casually get to bump into Nathan with no plan. I would just be like, do you know what's been happening? Do you know what's been going on?
I like the idea that he's coming to any of these events that I randomly go to because I'm like, he would literally hate
you would have to, talk
he
to
would
him.
hate nothing. He would hate nothing more than to be at one of these events.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of the plan. If you have end of year wrap ups, again, as Kelly was saying earlier, send us if there's anything like random under the sun you want to talk about. If there's something you loved and you want to leave a voicemail and you just want to mention one of your favorite things of 2025, I think we'll just do like a favorite things of 2025 podcast at the very end of the year.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we have like a lot of really random things that we want to talk about and we fit a few of them in. But it'd be fun to kind of dive into it. And I was even trying to remember like what were my favorite things this year? What shows did I watch? So I think it would be fun to review. So let us know what your favorite things of the year were.
Yeah. Meg will finally get to talk about Tyra Banks' hot ice cream.
We did talk about it.
There's an update and we can talk about it offline.
Yeah.
If you're in America, if you live in New York City, you can go get hot ice cream right now at Chelsea Market. Apparently, it's quite bad, However,
There's
I don't
no
know.
way it's worth it. Whatever the cost is, there's just no way unless it's free.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's free, but that's something that you can do. And if you do, let us know how it is, because I've heard it's bad.
Yeah. Okay. That would not be on our favorite list. Is it things that we want to talk about even if they're not good?
Well, I added a cultural, a pop culture section. So
Oh,
I
you
think
added one?
that's how you can talk about
Okay.
we can talk about that.
Okay, very good. I think you already covered all the ways to reach us. We're available
Yes.
to be reached if you need to. This has been Kelly and Megan on your side.